What's going on, college football fans? Welcome back to the First and Long College Football Show. I'm your co host, Marcus, joined by my co host, Mason, as always, here on the First and Long College Football Show. We're so glad that you're with us. Today, we've got the Between the Lines show. This is our weekly best bets in college football betting. If you're somebody who's interested in the lines, over unders, things like that in college football, you are in the right place. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you just like college football in general, you're in the right place. We've got all kinds of content coming at you here on the First and Long College Football Show pretty much daily. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button, we hope that you'll consider doing that right now. And those of you that regularly watch the show, or if you're new to the show, even do us a favor and hit the thumbs up for us. That helps us out a ton, helps us get the word out about the good old First and Long show. Mason, how are you, man? We've got football going on right now. Pitt is up big on Syracuse right now, buddy. 17-0. How you doing, man?
Man, doing good. I guess my bet for that is out the window since it's already started, right? I definitely had Pitt in the line.
Bet the second
So
half. You can bet the second
no,
half.
no, I'm good on that. I got plenty of bets on the board. I had my first, or I stopped a streak of winning there. I had a 2 week streak of winning. I was last week and the week before. Total, I was at +6. And then last week I went 3 under. So that puts me at 35 and 42 on the year. We were 1-1 in our locks last week and no fights once again. But on the money line, I went up 5.58 units. I've been hot on the money line, but
Yeah.
I need to transfer all that winning over to my best bets. I'm in the whole 7 right now, so definitely need to come back there. But I'm +10 on the year in the money line, +10 units. So pretty happy about that at least.
Yeah, it was. We had similar weeks. I didn't have a great week against the spread or the over unders, but hit both of my money line picks on the show. I was overall 4-7. I'm 37, 32 and 1 for the season. So I'm hanging in there. Last week, the week before last, I was 7-1 and hit a couple of money lines. And I was kind of, I guess, coasting off of that victory. I may have celebrated too long. What do they say? The 24-hour rule. Maybe I basked in that glory a little too much. And hey, that's you take your lumps and you don't overreact. You enjoy the wins, but you can't get too excited because you know the next week Vegas is probably going to get you back. Um, and I'm right around 500 for the year. I'm going to try to stay over that mark. I think I got some good picks for you this week. So let's jump into it. Mason, how many picks do you got this week, buddy?
I think I'm rolling with about 13, if I'm not mistaken. 12.
How many? I'm sorry, you were breaking up
Uh,
just a bit.
I've got
12.
12
Okay.
picks this week. Yep.
Okay. How about you go ahead and go first? Well, first of all, let's go through our big games. I got to call somebody back. Somebody just called me, and this is an odd time for someone to be calling me. So I would imagine that's probably a customer or something. Part of my real world reality that I deal with. So I'll have to just make a phone call real quick once we get going here. But um, no problem because you have more picks than me anyway, so you can rattle off a couple. But as we typically do, guys, let's go through the big games real quick. Let's see if we got any picks in these big games. LSU at Texas A&M. Do you have any best bets for this game this week, Mason?
I do. I'm taking LSU. The lines moved a little bit, so I've got LSU at +1.5 in this one. To me, when I look at this game, I feel like LSU has gotten so much better at like drastically better on defense, and I've always liked their offense, but to me, when I look at LSU and their ability to score, I just I just like it a little bit more than I do with Texas A&M, and in particular with LSU's offensive line creating issues for this D line, which is the strength of the team for Texas A&M. I think that's going to be the path to victory for LSU. That this game, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be surprised either way it goes, but um, for the betting the betting purposes here, I just feel like LSU is going to be a touch better in this game, even though it's on the road. I like Garrett Nussmeier, and I think I said in our preview show the other day that I think it's going to come down to a Garrett Nussmeier drive at the end of the game, much like the Ole Miss game for LSU, and they're going to win it at the end there. So give me LSU at +1.5.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and spill the beans. I mean, we don't necessarily have to keep our money lines till the end. I've got LSU on the money line this week. It's just a little bit better number, and there's not that much difference, obviously. In the you said it was 2 points. The LSU's +2. Is that what it is, or
One
+1?
1.5.
Yeah. I'm just going to take the -104. I think LSU wins the ball game. I'm like 60-40 on that. I mean, look, Texas A&M could very well come out here, run the football very effectively, play keep away, and that would be a very effective strategy against this LSU team. If they're successful doing it, and somewhat efficient. So the LSU defense is more what I'm concerned with in this game. I trust that offense. That offense is going to put up, I think, right around 30 points, 27, 24, 30, somewhere right around that area. It's about the defense for LSU for me, and they've been hot. So I'm going to ride the hot hand. They're going to have to be able to get a little bit of pressure on Connor Wegman, get him off platform, I think. And I think that they'll be able to do that. They've been an absolute sack machine here lately. So I think that they're going to be able to get back behind the line of scrimmage with this Texas A&M offensive line. They haven't been exactly the best offensive line in the country. They haven't been terrible. They're top half in the country as far as sacks given up this year. But like I said, LSU has got the hot hand, and they've been really, really good at getting after the quarterback here of late, the last couple of weeks. All right, Missouri at Alabama. Do you have a play on that one?
I do. I'm taking the under 51.5. A couple of injuries for Mizzou in this one. It sounds like Nate Noel is not going to be able to go. Potentially Theo Weiss is not going to be able to go. Potentially Brady Cook is not going to be able to go. Just a lot of things stacked against this Missouri offense. And then on the flip side for Bama, like I said in the preview, I feel like Bama is going to want to run the football in this football game and just kind of play keep away, limit possessions on both sides of the field, really, and play this game, make it a short game, shorten the game a good bit, but come out with a win. It's at home for Bama, so I like them to be able to do some good things on defense against a battered offense for Mizzou. So give me the under 51.5 in that game.
I'm with you on that. All the same reasons you just said. Mizzou has not been a great offensive team this season. They haven't been like really great at anything this season. I mean, they've been solid in certain areas and at times, but it's been inconsistent. And the offense overall has been a disappointment, even with Brady Cook. So I'm with you on that. Even if Brady Cook goes, I don't think he's 100%. I'm not sure he's been 100% all year. I don't know. But I know one thing. This offense has been set on his shoulders after Cody Schrader left last year, and I don't think he's that type of quarterback. I don't know that he's the type to be able to put the team on his back. So unless we're about to see some kind of crazy performance from a backup quarterback, I think that that's a pretty safe bet, especially at that 51.5. 51 is a key number, guys. And an outcome that happens a lot. 51 is a total that gets hit a lot. I like it there with the hook. Better bet it now. And by the way, Pitt just scored again. It is 24-0. Pitt, Syracuse has ran about 38 plays already this game, and Pitt's ran about 10, and Pitt's up 23-0. That Syracuse defense just can't do anything. The offense can't either. Can't sustain drives, obviously. But
yeah, for the record, I had the over in that game, but obviously I'm not gonna bet that on the show. But it's looking like it might hit. It's looking like Pitt might hit that on their own.
Yeah, we really need to try to figure out a way to get the show started for some of these Friday games. But we do what we can, folks. I mean, we're just as busy as you guys are. I know all y'all are busy too. So I know it's preaching to the choir. Everybody's busy these days. Illinois at Oregon. Do you got to play on this one?
I do. I'm taking the under in this one as well at 55.5. I think that line's just a little bit too high. I like Oregon's offense a ton. I think Illinois is decent, but going up against an offense in Oregon that has completely revamped itself since making the offensive line switches. I think Trayshawn Holden should be back for this game. And I feel like they're catching Oregon while Oregon's kind of a buzzsaw team right now. I mean, they are looking like the number one team in the country, and I think that they continue to roll as Illinois travels all the way to Autzen there, and should be able to score some, but I just don't feel like Oregon will give up too many points, and I think that they get up big enough or by enough points and then just kind of sit for the most part, and try to get that run game going. They have struggled there just a bit in the running game, so maybe later in the second half they start running the football more, and kind of show what we've seen from Georgia. I think Dan Lanning might show sort of that boa constrictor type of mentality and team here this weekend.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump on so you said it's 55.5 at this point?
Yes.
All right. Heck yeah. So it's went up. I like that we're going against the public on that. I really, really like that. But I already had a play on this game, and it was Illinois plus 21.5. I like that half a point right there. I think that's a big, big deal. Not a lot of people are jumping on Illinois. And look, they don't, I've said it time and time again on the show. They don't build the big buildings out in Vegas by cashing everybody out every week. Okay. They know what they're doing. They want you to take Oregon and minus the points there. And it's a good old fashioned Vegas honey trap. I mean, that's exactly what that is. You're right, Mason. Look, Illinois has been really good at getting interceptions. They've been really, really good at turning people over. Why would Oregon, with some of the turnover issues that Dillon Gabriel has had now, there has been some, why would they go in trying to throw on this team? Illinois has given up a bunch of rushing yards this season. Why wouldn't you get behind that offensive line that's been playing really good here lately and run the football, which limits Illinois' possessions and runs clock? And I think that Oregon can be successful with that, that recipe. I think Oregon is just looking for just a ho-hum victory here. I don't think it's got to be pretty. I think this is Dan Lanning getting back to his Georgia football roots. This is a game that goes under. And with it going under, that's a huge point spread to have to cover whenever you've got a lower scoring football game. So give me the 21.5 and for Illinois. I think they can at least score a couple of touchdowns through the air, I think. And I just don't like Oregon to cover by that much. That's a huge spread, man.
I found you an extra point, so you can just mark it down at 22.5.
Oh, sweet. Okay. I will take it. Take every bit I can get. All right. So got that. Just for shits and gigs, anything on the Nebraska at Ohio State game?
Yeah, I'm taking the under there as well. A lot of under plays for me this week, but when I look at these two defenses, I really like really both teams on defense. I've come to realize that Ohio State is probably just not going to give up a lot of points, right? Unless you're just an elite offense, Ohio State's not going to give up a ton of points. And we saw Nebraska put up 7 last week against Indiana. Indiana is a well-coached football team, but I don't think that they're quite as good on defense as Ohio State. Not to say that Nebraska, won't score 13 in this game or something like that, but I think that they can also limit that Ohio State can also limit Nebraska in this football game. And then for Ohio State, the offense, I think, has kind of I mean, good, but not at the elite caliber that we've come to expect from Ohio State. They have had a lot of success in the running game, and Nebraska has been really good against the run. So I think that you'll see Ohio State with a few punts in this football game, and I really feel like they're going to be eating a lot of clock, keeping it on the ground, regardless of whether they're moving the sticks or not. But give me the under at 49.5 here.
Hey, go ahead and rattle off a couple. Like I said, you got more than me anyway. That's all the big games that we had talked about. I'm going to make this phone call real quick. I'll be right back.
All right. All right. So let's go to the Friday night game. Boise State at UNLV. UNLV has been, well, let's start with Boise State because I love the Ashton Jeanty story. The guy's averaging like over 200 yards per game, about 10 yards per carry. The guy's an absolute machine. But when you look at what UNLV has done, they're just the best rush defense in the country outside of the top four, or the power four, excuse me. They've got wins over 3 of their 4 power 4 opponents, and just covered a 6.5-point spread over Oregon State, where they were favored. So their only loss was to Syracuse, actually, and that was a 3-point loss. It was a really close game. I think that UNLV, it feels a little bit slighted, feels somewhat discredited in a sense, and having Boise come to them at home, I think, is a huge factor. But you're going to see kind of a pissed off UNLV team that feels like they should be getting a lot of the credit as the at-large team outside of the Power Four, and not so much Boise State just because they've got one good running back. And then you look at the other side of the ball for Boise State, the defense is not great. They really haven't been great. UNLV, really good on offense, but I like the defense, the rushing defense in particular. I think that they'll have a game plan in place for GNT, and I think that they cover the 3 points, and I've also got them on the money line to win this week as well and knock off the undefeated Broncos.
I've got them on the money line as well. So we are double locked on the money line. We think UNLV is going to win that football game, and that's not a stretch. I mean, it's a 3.5-point spread on a game where the over/under is in the 60s. So I mean, when you really sit and think about that, I mean, it's probably going to come down to who has the ball last, and like you said, we know what Boise's strength is. I will definitely. This game comes on at 10:30 tonight, right? So
it's tomorrow.
It is tomorrow. Oh, Friday
Yeah,
night.
It's a Friday night game.
Yeah, I got you. Friday. All right. So yeah, that'll be one that I'll definitely have turned on while I'm working for sure. That's going to be a doggone good one. All right. What else you got? Give me another one.
All right.
Because you told one and then it stole my pick. So
I got you.
Now
I was
you didn't make any ground on me.
I hear you. OU at Ole Miss. I'm taking the under here as well. It's at 49 points. Look, OU. Really, the South Carolina OU under should have hit, but South Carolina scored on 2 turnovers on defense, and they were up 21-0 in the first quarter, and I mean, by the first half, that under was no more, pretty much. I mean, I think they needed 3 points in that game for the over to hit. So as long as OU doesn't give up some pick sixes, some scooping scores and whatnot, I feel pretty confident that this under will hit. Looking at Ole Miss's defense, I mean, they're absolutely stout. I do think they probably create some turnovers. I just need them to not score right away. Get a turnover and take some time off the clock, maybe kick a field goal or something like that. That would go a long way in this one for the Ole Miss defense. But then on the flip side, Ole Miss has had some issues running the football. They're banged up on the offensive line. Trey Harris is out in this game, which he's a big part of this offense. So for those reasons, I'm taking the under as almost like a principal play. The 49, I'd like it to be a little bit higher. I'd love for it to be above 51, but I still feel pretty good that this one is going to hit at under 49. I don't know if Oklahoma is going to score more than 7 points, honestly. Maybe they get to 10, but I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that Oklahoma has done this season offensively that gives you any type of faith in this game. Not to mention, Ole Miss gets healthier on defense this week. You got Human Layan, whatever the hell his last name is, coming back healthy. The whole defensive line should be back to its original form, right, to start the season for the most part. So, yeah, and I like your play. I think that's a good play too. I'm going to take Ole Miss minus 20. I just don't see any world in which, and it's not even about the Oklahoma defense. The Oklahoma defense is decent enough. It's just that offense isn't going to be able to sustain drives against this Ole Miss defense, and you're just going to keep handing the ball back over to Ole Miss's offense. If you give Lane Kiffin and that offense, even if they do have players down, if you give them the ball enough, they're going to figure out a way to score. So, give me Ole Miss minus 20. That seems like easy money to me this week. That's one of the first ones this week that I saw, and I was just like, that's. I just don't see any world in which Oklahoma figures it out this week. And
I'm
it
gonna jump on
hasn't
that with you.
it hasn't been
Actually,
like Oklahoma hasn't wanted to play well. The players haven't been trying to play well or something. They have a really bad situation on that offensive line, and uh, Ole Miss ain't the team you want to be seeing whenever you got offensive line issues. That's for sure. Um, all right, what else you got, brother?
let me dip back into this Maryland. Well, they won some money for me on the money line last week, and beat USC. Huge comeback win for them. They were down, I think, 14 points in the fourth quarter and came back to win that game. It's a pretty awesome win there for Lockley and the bunch. And I'm going to go back to them. They're 4.5-point dogs at Minnesota. I think that they're a little bit undervalued team by Vegas's standards. Everybody's got this impression of the Northwestern game because it happened just a few weeks ago. But that was a game that Maryland, I think if they were to play again, if Maryland were to play Northwestern 10 times, I think Maryland would win 7 of those 10. Game just didn't quite fall the way that, it probably normally would. So I'm taking that as an anomaly. And outside of that, I feel pretty good about Maryland sticking with Minnesota, at least making it a football game and potentially winning it, which is why I've also got them on the money line at plus 158. That's good money. I think they've just got the momentum right now. Coming off of the win against USC. I think Maryland can beat a Minnesota this week, a well coached Minnesota team, mind you, but I like what the Terps are doing right now.
Yeah, you were on that train last week. I feel you. All right, I'm gonna go to the Notre Dame and Navy game. This is a neutral site game, from what I understand. I think at maybe the Giant Stadium or something like that, MetLife Stadium or something or another like that. It's a neutral site for sure. Um, Notre Dame right now is a 14-point favorite in that one. And look, this is simple. I've bet against Notre Dame a couple of times this season, and I've gotten burned every time I've done it. Okay. Um, it feels like it was a long time ago, but it was Notre Dame whenever they played Purdue. I was like, hey, I kind of like this. What Purdue did in the offseason, smacked, just absolutely smacked by this Notre Dame team. There was another time that I had bet against Notre Dame, smacked somebody. Look, this Notre Dame team knows how to do one thing, and they know how to do one thing really well, particularly on offense. It's run the football. This is a Navy team that hasn't played a whole lot of, it's obviously not been a real tough schedule for Navy. You want to go look at it. And you can just go ahead and say there's two different types of athletes in this football game. Okay. There's there's NFL players on Notre Dame's team. There's zero doubt about that. Okay. And there's none of that on Navy's team. There is a huge athletic advantage here. And whenever you're a running football team like Notre Dame is, that's a bad combination, brother. I don't think the Navy stands a chance in this one. As I said, Navy hasn't played a whole lot of people. When they played Memphis this season, one of their most formidable foes, gave up 274 yards on the ground. What are they going to give up to Notre Dame? In that game, almost gave up 700 yards of total offense. So if Riley Leonard,
that was a Memphis team that beat Florida State.
yeah, you're right. That is very impressive. You know what? And we'll talk more about Florida State here in just a minute because I think they're about to. I think they're about to wear one again this weekend because they are the worst program in the Power Four right this second. But with all that being said, look, this isn't the team you want to see whenever you have struggles stopping the run, right? And I don't doubt the Navy's going to go out there and play hard or that they'll have a decent game plan offensively. Notre Dame is missing a couple of pieces defensively in this game, but I don't think it makes a difference with the athletic disadvantage that Navy's at in this one. So give me Notre Dame minus 14. I would love Navy is a great story, guys, but I said it earlier in the week. It's time to start differentiating between great stories and great football teams. And I don't think Navy's a great football team. I think they're a really great story. I think they're better than what they've been, but I don't think they're a great football team at this point, and definitely not good enough stopping the run to be able to stop Notre Dame.
Yeah, and sticking with that in that same light, at Texas at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, another great story. They're better than they've been, like you said about Navy. But I think Texas at 18.5 point favorites was the best I could find. I think Texas is going to roll in this one. And, really looking at what happened last week against Georgia, despite the fact that it was a blowout and, just seemed like Georgia's defense just took over that game completely, didn't give the offense for Texas a chance to come back. And the offense did just enough, but to me, that's a credit to Texas's defense. When Georgia was getting all these short field positions, it seemed like, more times than they should have, really, Texas was able to hold Georgia to just a field goal. So that was really impressive to me. I think that the defense for Texas shows up and travels to Vanderbilt. You can't put too much credit into Vanderbilt's win over Alabama because Alabama's defense is not nearly as good as Texas's. And then also against Kentucky. Kentucky looked terrible last week. So, Kentucky's kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team for me this year's. But I don't want to put too much value in Vanderbilt yet as a program overall. And I feel like Texas is probably feeling like they need to have sort of a bounce back game and a get right game, and it comes at just the right moment because they got Vandy this week. So give me Texas at minus 18.5.
I'm going to go on the opposite side of you here. I'm taking Vandy plus 18.5. I don't disagree with most of what you said, but I think 18.5 is a smidge too much. I think it's about a 1.5 too much. I could see 34-17 being a very possible outcome here. And I just, like I said, I think this is a smidge too much. The one kind of thing that I disagree with a little bit, Texas, their defense got some turnovers in that football game. But were they really awesome turnovers, or were they really? Was it more miscommunication like we've seen from Georgia all season? This Georgia offense is going through some changes, man. Like some serious growing pains. This is a different Georgia offense than what we've seen. We did see Georgia run the ball better on Texas than just about anybody we've seen Georgia run the ball on. And I think that Vanderbilt is going to be able to have a good plan for this Texas defense. And I think they're going to be able to run the football a little bit, play some keep away from Texas. Vandy's been really good at sustaining drives. Really, really good on third down. Texas hasn't not been great on third down here lately, offensively or defensively. So I don't know. I think Georgia's offense is pretty mediocre obviously, when you're turning the ball over. But when Georgia didn't turn the ball over, they were able to move the ball successfully. I mean, the whole game, they moved the ball successfully. They just, the wide receivers and Carson Beck are not on the same page right now. So I put a little more stock into the fact that I don't think that Carson Beck's playing particularly well right now.
Yeah,
But
and to your point, Vanderbilt does not turn the ball over. Like Diego
right.
Pavia does not turn it over. So that definitely is something. As you're talking, I'm kind of worried about, but at the same time, I don't feel like I don't feel like Vanderbilt in a clean game is able to get over 13.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that kind of leads me to my next point. I don't have that much faith in this Texas offense right this second. I think that they're going through issues. I think there's drama in that locker room. I'm not so sure how well. Obviously, the loss has not set well with this team from last week. You know, sometimes teams do bounce back and they play really well. I have a feeling that's not going to be the case with this Texas team. And furthermore, I think when you are struggles in this game, I think that it only accentuates that we have a open can of worms in this locker room at this point. There's two different quarterbacks. I've seen this go down before, and it can get ugly, even with the best coaching and in the best, blah blah blah, whatever. We've seen it at Georgia. It can divide a locker room certainly, and I'm interested to see how Texas responds from that. Give me Vandy. I don't think Vandy wins this football game. That's not the point. Vandy plus 18.5 though. I think they can keep it within that. All right. I can't wait to watch that game, honestly. That's so weird to say that I can't wait to watch a Vandy game, but I just can't wait. All right, I'll give you one of mine here. So how about Central Florida is hosting BYU this week, Mason? BYU is undefeated atop the Big 12. Central Florida, like, 3 or 4 losses at this point, middling Big 12 team. Been pretty disappointing for the most part for Gus Malzahn and company. They're a favorite this week hosting BYU. I'm going to take Central Florida. Vegas is trying to tell us something here.
Yeah.
If Vegas thinks that Central Florida has an edge, I feel like Central Florida is one of these teams where it's like when they've got an edge, they take it to an extreme. This offense, if you are not equipped to be able to stop this offense, I'm not saying that BYU is totally inequipped to, but once they get a crack, buddy, I mean, they take a mile. This is a hard offense to defend once it gets going. Gus Malzahn, I mean, it can be pretty tricky stuff, especially if it's somebody that you don't play a whole lot, somebody that you're not super familiar with. It's kind of like defending the triple option in a sense. I'm really interested to see was BYU able to get some good looks in practice this week, getting ready for this offense. With the way Vegas is pointing at this football game, and they're begging everybody to take BYU in this one. I'm going to go with Central Florida, and I'm going to go with what I believe Vegas is trying to tell me here. Give me Central Florida minus 2.5 in this game.
I like the play. I thought about it. I considered it. I was hoping that BYU would be favored going into this football game. That was kind of like my thought when I saw it on the schedule. That's not the case. I think Vegas is kind of sniffing this one out. We saw BYU struggle against Oregon or Oklahoma State last week, and I think that they're due for an upset here. So, which it's not an upset. They're not favored unless the head coach over there can pull some Kirby Smart and Georgia magic and tell them that they're the underdogs and all this stuff. I don't see them being up for this game. I'm going to go to Michigan State at Michigan. It's the battle for the Wolverine State. I like Michigan State here at plus 5.5. They are going on the road, but I think Michigan State has gotten better as an offense throughout the season, and we know that they're really good on defense. I think the total for this game was like 37.5. I considered betting the over in that just as a principle, but I'm a little bit concerned with that. I think if you're betting the over at 37.5, you're kind of banking on a defensive score at that point.
What game was that, Mason? I'm sorry, I was commenting with double O. What game was that again?
Yeah, Michigan State at Michigan.
I had that one. So I think it's at 39.5 now. Is what I saw before we started the show. So I think the betting public is betting over on that and has bumped it up a couple of points because that was one that I had written down and I marked it out.
You can get a 38.5, but still, I'm betting Michigan State to keep it within 5.5 points. So, I don't like that it's on the road. I don't like that I don't get at least 6 points out of this, but
yeah.
I do feel that Jonathan Smith has got this team moving in the right direction. I think they can finally maybe score some points against a Michigan defense that isn't quite what we thought it would be going into the season. And then defensively, I feel like this Michigan State defensive line is going to absolutely eat, especially if they have Jack Tuttle in there playing quarterback and not Orji, who can escape sacks and whatnot. I feel like Tuttle is going to get a ton of pressure in this one, and I think that they can keep it within a field goal, if not win the game outright.
Yeah, I like that. So I have this game written down, and I didn't know which way to play it, but I think you talked me into it. I think I'm gonna take Michigan State as well. And you said plus 5.5 or 5?
That's right, 5.5.
5.5. I'm gonna jump on that with you. Look, Michigan State's been pretty good at stopping the run this season. And what has Michigan? I mean, that's all they do is run the football. I know Jack Tuttle's back, but I don't know how much difference that makes with the scheme set up the way it is. I mean, it's not set up. It's not set up for a passing offense right this second. No real wide receivers to go to. It's kind of a bad situation for the forward pass there in Ann Arbor. Yeah, I like that. In the rivalry game as well, I like taking the underdog there for sure. And look, that would be a signature win for Jonathan Smith. Illinois beat Michigan last week, and it was like a really big deal for Illinois. And there were some people that were like, hey, who cares? Michigan sucks. No, Illinois beats Michigan. It's a big deal, right? Michigan State beats Michigan this year. They don't care that Michigan's down, dude. This is a big deal. And Michigan State will be ready to play in this one. The biggest thing is no turnovers. I've seen this Michigan State offense get themselves into good situations early in football games and then squander it almost immediately by turning the ball over. So they'll have to. Aiden Chillis will have to certainly make sure that doesn't happen. So I'm gonna jump on that one with you. What else you got, brother?
How about Penn State at Wisconsin? I really like what Wisconsin's been doing lately with Braden Locke, and it seems like they're going back to a run-heavy offense. 3 yards in a cloud of dust again. Phil Longo is not getting his way. Doesn't have the personnel. I do still like Phil Longo as an offensive coordinator. The fact that they're transitioning away from the spread offense, I think, tells a lot about the offensive coordinator, that he's able to pivot and say, all right, this isn't working. Let's change what we're doing here a little bit and try something more effective. But then on the flip side, the defense is playing phenomenal. I think that this is going to be a defensive battle of a football game. And for that, I like Wisconsin to cover a 6.5 point spread. And I'm actually, because there's so much value in it, I'm taking Wisconsin on the money line as well. At home at Camp Randall, they're on the money line. It's at plus 205. I feel like there's good value there, but I wanted to have a backup on the spread as well, because I do think that Wisconsin at the least is going to be able to keep it within 6.5 points.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm on that one as well. Wisconsin plus 6.5. They're playing a lot better ball than what they were early in the season. I think a lot of the thoughts on going away from the air raid had to do with Tyler Van Dyke going down. That offense. Phil Longo was so excited to get Tyler Van Dyke this offseason. I mean, he recruited him out of high school. This was a guy he's wanted his whole career. And he finally got him, and he played, 3 games, and he's out. He went out in that Alabama game. So not even quite 3 games. Um, Wisconsin goes back to their roots. I think that that's a good recipe, for this football game. And I just don't think Penn State has got the firepower to be able to go in there and score a bunch of points against Wisconsin. Therefore, I think that line's too big. All right, let's go to this one. Washington at Indiana. You got to play for that game, Mason?
I don't. I'm staying away from it.
I'm going to take the under 53.5. Rourke is out in this game. And therefore, I think Indiana is going to be more than happy to try to run the football in this one. Play some keep away. Washington has been good at moving the ball down the field, specifically through the air. Not a great running team. But I don't like Will Rogers when he gets in the red zone. We've talked about this time and time again. I'll say it again. Will Rogers has got the brain capacity. He's got everything that you want, other than the fact that, me and him have about the same strength arm. And fitting that ball into tight windows with, he doesn't have the God-given ability that some of these quarterbacks do. He's not zipping it into, holes the size of a paint can. That's not happening. They bog down when they get in the red zone. And Indiana seems like a really, really fundamental team. Like I said, Rourke being out, I still like this team. I really kind of like the 6.5. If it's still there. So yeah, I'm not betting on it, but I like the -6.5. That's what it was earlier in the week. But I really like the under 53.5 with the fact that I think Indiana will run the ball. I think Washington will move the ball without scoring a ton. Under 53.5. And I like that number 53.5 because it's over the key numbers there. And I think you got a couple of points to play with.
Well,
yeah.
I can give you one more. I got a 54.5 at DraftKings.
Okay, sweet. 54.5. I like it even better. Now you got about 3.5 points to play with there off the key number of 51.
Yep.
All right, what you got?
I'm going to go to the Big 12 and dip into the Colorado well. I think they're playing good football right now, Mark. It sounds like Travis Hunter is going to be able to go in this game. I think that's a huge add there. Like the offense, the defense is coming around. They're kind of growing on me a little bit. Playing against Cincinnati this week, they're 6.5-point favorites. I like that it's at 6.5. I think that they can win by a touchdown at least. Cincinnati playing better football for sure, but I don't know that they've really played anybody to this point, competitively that's at the level that Colorado's playing at right now. Colorado's got more to play for in this one. It's at Colorado in Boulder. You know that the lights will be bright there in Boulder, and I think that Shedeur is going to be able to score some touchdowns in this one. I think he's still somewhat in the Heisman contention rates or race. So I don't think that they're going to stop feeding him, whether they're up by 3 or up by 30. So give me Colorado in this one at plus 6.5. I think that they cover pretty easily.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. I like that play. All right, FSU at Miami. This is my last play of the week. Miami's about to steamroll Florida State. And look, Florida State has had, if there's one thing you can point at on this team that say it's been somewhat decent, it's been the defense. I think that's absolutely null and void against this Miami offense. I think this Miami offense is championship caliber. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The defense is what's suspect for Miami. This team has gotten behind in football games. That offense has been able to bring them back. But the defense has been they've allowed some points. But Florida State is crippled on offense. They just have nothing. They're one of the worst programs in the Power Four. I'm really interested to see how much longer this Florida State team hangs in there. And what I mean by that is I think you're going to see a lot of guys starting to opt out, Mason. We saw them do it last year before the bowl game when they're undefeated and got a chance to do something historic. They all opt out. What about whenever there's nothing to play for and there's nothing historic about it? Why wouldn't more guys opt out? This is a team, for some reason, Mike Norvell has taken an approach that a Pitt or a Purdue or a Colorado, he's taken that approach to building this football team. And the problem with that is, if you don't have the high school recruits coming in and coming of age every single year, you're having to reload the cupboard every single year. And there are a bunch of kids that don't give a damn about going to Florida State. My whole point in this is I think Florida State is on the verge of quitting. And I think Miami could be the team to put them over the edge this weekend. Miami, I think this is a blowout victory in the rivalry game here. I cannot see this one being close. Give me Miami to cover the spread and give me over 54.5. I guess I think Florida State will probably score a couple touchdowns. I think they'll figure out a way to muster up a couple of points, just because of the fact that I don't know how great this Miami defense is at this point. So I'm going to take the over, but I'm going to take Miami to cover as well. I believe it was 21 points.
Yeah, I like the play there. I like the play there, especially considering, Miami being the recruiting sort of juggernauts they are, in an in-state battle. I feel like Cristobal is going to want to put up a ton of points. I can get you a 20.5 to give you that extra half point there on a key number. And then 54.5 is the best I got for the over.
All right.
And then I'll give you my last play of the week. I got Auburn at +2.5 at Kentucky. Auburn has been knocking on the door of winning a football game. I mean, Oklahoma came back, Missouri came back late. I think that they finally get it done. Not that they're a great team, but they got to show some improvement. Like if Hugh Freeze wants to keep his job, he needs to show some improvement. It's going to be a tall task for the offense this week, but I think similarly on the other side of the football, Kentucky's not going to be able to score many points with their offense and with I'll say as good as Auburn's defense has been playing. They're not a great defense. They're not really as good as Kentucky's even. But they do keep them in football games. They're kind of middle of the pack, maybe slightly above the middle of the pack defense in the SEC. And I think that they're going to be able to limit Kentucky, limit their passing game for sure, and then do some good things up front in the run game. I've got Auburn at +2.5, and I've also got them on the money line in this one. I think it was Peanut Butter Posse, one of our commenters who's a Kentucky fan, was talking about how bad Kentucky has been at home. And, who would have thought that Kentucky can't play in their own stadium, but for whatever reason, they have been really bad playing at home. I think that trend continues this week in Auburn, and Hugh Freeze finally gets some good news out of a week and get a little bit of momentum going, because they've been really close in a few ones. Kickers missed a few field goals, and it's just been kind of a weird season there on the Plains.
Yeah, very, very disappointing. I mean, we talked about that team in the offseason a couple of different times, and we were like, hey, here we go. They've got some pieces finally. Man, has it fell flat on its face. I'm out of picks, so whatever you got, unload them.
That's all I got. That was it for me. I've got my 5 money line picks we've already called out. But just to recap, I've got Boise State at UNLV. Give me UNLV at +3. OU at Ole Miss under 49. I've got Ole Miss in that game at -20. Nebraska, Ohio State under 49.5. Maryland at +4.5 at Minnesota. Mizzou at Bama under 51.5. Illinois at Oregon under 55.5. Texas at -18.5 at Vanderbilt. Michigan State at +5.5 at Michigan. LSU plus 1.5 at Texas A&M. Penn State at Wisconsin. Give me Wisconsin at plus 6.5. Auburn at plus 2.5 at Kentucky. And Cincinnati at Colorado. Give me Colorado at minus 6.5. And then on the money lines, I've got Maryland over Minnesota, UNLV over Boise, LSU over Texas A&M, Auburn over Kentucky, and Wisconsin over Penn State.
Yep, I got Notre Dame minus 14, Mizzou at Bama under 51.5, Washington at Indiana under 54.5, Oklahoma at Ole Miss minus 20, Wisconsin plus 6.5, hosting Penn State, Central Florida minus 2.5, hosting BYU, Illinois plus 22.5 at Oregon, and then I got the under 55.5 on that one. Vandy plus 18.5 hosting Texas. FSU at Miami. I've got Miami minus 20.5 and the over 54.5. And then Michigan State at Michigan. I've got Michigan State plus 5.5 as the underdog there on the road. And then UNLV plus 140, LSU minus 104, hosting BYU, and then at Texas A&M respectively. That's how we do it, folks. Another week is in the books.
For Notre Dame, I did get you a 12.5. So instead of a 14, that's a pretty big difference there around some key numbers. So you get under the 13 and under the 14. So
I will absolutely take that. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, guys, that's going to do it for week 9 of the college football season. We've got everything out there in the open, on the books, on the videos. Go check out our videos playlist there. Check out everything that you may have missed this week. Buckle up. This is going to be another awesome weekend of college football. We've got big spreads. And if we know anything about this season so far, that doesn't mean anything about the caliber of football games that we're going to be having this weekend. I can't wait to see what happens. Come join us Saturday night. We're going to have our overreaction show like we typically do. Come drink a beer with us. That's when we hang out. We're nice and loose. It's usually around 11:30 p.m. on Saturday night. So you catch me at 11:30 p.m. on a Saturday night. There's no telling what I might say. So come join us on the overreaction show. We'd love to have you. And then we got all our regular scheduled content coming out next week, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, like I just said. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I certainly do appreciate it. Y'all have a great weekend and good luck in the betting window this weekend. Thank y'all so much for watching.